Very good. Well, Sonoma County Vintners, welcome along with Kendall-Jackson Winery, Jackson Family Wines. My name is Pedro Rusk, and I'm thrilled to be your guys' host today. We are going to have a wonderful walk through the garden and then taste through some wines with our winemaker and cook some food with our esteemed chefs. So without further ado, because I know that we do have a little bit of a time restraint, and I think we're a couple of minutes behind. I'd like to introduce you to Tucker Taylor. There's our man right there. Hello, Tucker.
Hey,
Tucker's out in our beautiful gardens here at the Kendall-Jackson Wine Estates and Gardens. And this is Tucker's domain. I'm going to turn it over to Tucker to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that we do here that are remarkable and some of the charities that we work with, because we do some very interesting things here that make it a very unique place. Please, Tucker, I'll pass the mic to you.
Thank you, Pedro. Welcome to our culinary garden here at Kendall-Jackson. Like Pedro was saying, in addition to our culinary team here, we also work with Farm to Pantry, a local nonprofit. And so whenever we have extra produce, they have volunteer gleaners that will come to our farm here and help harvest the produce. And all of that produce goes into local food banks. So it's, as a board member, it's really nice to see the impact that an organization like Farm to Pantry is having on our local community. But as you can see, we have a pretty extensive garden here. We're working with about 4 acres. We have a team of 5 of us. And David Gonzalez has been farming here for just over 21 years now. So that shows you what an amazing place this is. And I'm gonna turn it over real quick so you can get a better view. Here's some of the crops. Like here's some fairy tale eggplant that you'll be seeing later. Here's how we cover some of our beds to keep out the insects. And then here's one of my favorite tomatoes. These are sun golds.
Those are beautiful. What do they taste like, Tucker?
They taste like candy. They're a really nice balance of sweetness and acidity.
Those are my favorite.
Yeah. And as Randy knows, we have pretty warm summer days and cool summer nights, and that really helps enhance flavor development. But in our garden, we also have a lot of perennial borders. So our perennials really help attract beneficial insects and pollinators to help us manage the garden. But if you haven't visited or haven't visited in a while, I strongly urge you to come visit. We're always out in the garden. Ask us any questions you have, and thanks for being here.
Hey, Tucker, before you turn away real quick, you know, and Randy's on as well with us, this is a perfect gateway. Could you kind of show us the Chardonnay Vineyard right over there to your right?
Absolutely.
By chance, this happens to be the Chardonnay Vineyard that we're using in our food and wine pairing tonight. So if you happen to have the Chardonnay that was part of the gift pack through the Sonoma County Vintners, this would be the Chardonnay that you're drinking, and sometimes it's kind of physically cool to be able to literally see the vineyard and taste the wine. I know we're not able to be there in person right now, but Randy, tell us a bit about this vineyard and a little bit about this wine before we turn it over to our 2 chefs.
Well, we have this saying, you know, if you're out in the vineyard, and maybe Tucker can do this, he can kick the dirt, kick the vine, and we'll taste the wine. But it's really a nice spot for growing Chardonnay. That is the absolute heart of the Russian River Valley, right there at the wine center. It goes a little to the north, and of course off to the west, out the Russian River towards the coast. But we have a lot of different clones in that Chardonnay vineyard, and some of them we call Dijon clones, and they tend to be kind of aromatic, very kind of perfumey. And as you look at this Chardonnay and smell it, you can see it's got this beautiful golden hue to it, which means we got the grapes nice and ripe. And then we barrel fermented this, and 100% French oak barrels that we got from we have our own little stave mill over in France to help with the quality of the oak and the barrels. And of course, then we have the great grapes.
Did you see that tiny berry that Tucker was holding up? I'm sorry to interrupt, but did everyone get a chance to see that tiny berry Tucker was holding up in some of those berries? These are probably getting pretty close to picking, and this is what a unique chance to taste the wine and literally look in the vineyard since no one can be there. But just to zoom in again, what a really cool thing. Sorry, Randy, please.
No, that's okay. The more golden the berry, the more flavors you're going to have. And this is the exciting part. And so those flavorful berries sort of transpose or transition themselves into this wonderful wine that has that sort of golden hue, and it's rich and it's unctuous. And when you smell it, you can smell the sort of the lemon and a little bit of pear, a little bit of tropical fruit. But what's going to be interesting is with this first course, which has some lemon in it. So you've got the two lemons kind of playing off each other. And when you try it, because it's barrel fermented, it is round. It doesn't have a lot of oak, but it's got just a kiss of supporting oak. And the most important thing is when you taste it, oh my, and swallow it, it is mouth-filling. It brings a smile to your face, and it has a nice, long, lingering finish. And when you have a lingering finish like that, sometimes you don't believe it, so you have to have another sip and another taste. And salute. Here we go to a great afternoon. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Well said, Randy. And again, I know that we had some more people join in. Tucker, thank you for walking around. Before we keep rolling along, I didn't get a chance to mention, we love everyone to say hello to each other. So we have the chat room down below if you do want to say hello and, kind of talk amongst each other. If you do have questions directly related to anything that we're doing, please put it in the Q&A. We'll try to address them as we roll along. And then we'll do have a little bit of time scheduled towards the end to kind of go over any other questions that might not have got answered. And we can always answer things via email if we need to. But for Tucker, if there's any questions, Tucker hang out for a couple of seconds, but if there are any questions, he'll be here for a few more minutes about the garden. But at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Chef Justin and Chef Tracy in the kitchen. And they've got something that they're working on that's going to go incredibly well. It looks like we've got Buttercup back there as well with our Chardonnay. So if I could pass the mic over to Justin.
So how are you? Welcome to our kitchen. We got Chef Tracy and Chef Buttercup back here. And Buttercup, am I allowed to tell him? Buttercup just got back from LA yesterday. And he was getting filmed for the Food Network down there. So he's been in quarantine for one of their competition shows. So he's going to be on, when's he going? November. He's going to come tell you about a show real quick, so before we get started.
Hi, everybody. So yes, I'm going to be on the Food Network. The show is called Candyland, and it's going to be airing in November. I don't know the date yet, but I'm assuming it will start advertising anytime soon. So yeah, really excited.
So Buttercup was in a bubble, just like the NBA. So they're down there testing him. He's been tested 9 times for the coronavirus. So they're keeping him safe down there, and he's been competing, and he just came back to cook with us today. So he's going to show us a dessert. I'm going to show you a really cool duck dish, and Tracy's going to do some eggplant and zucchini from the garden. We got a lot of beautiful vegetables that Tucker brings us every day, and I guess we'll go ahead and get started. We'll talk about some wine pairings to go with these dishes. But we're going to start off, Tracy's going to start searing some eggplant and working on some squash. So, okay.
Hi, cheers. Thank you all so much for joining us today. So I know that the dish that we're talking about pairing with this beautiful Chardonnay is this zucchini dish. And I'm going to get to that in one quick second. However, in a little bit, when Justin's doing a duck dish, there's an eggplant part of that dish that needs to get started right now. So just really quick, everyone pause for the Chardonnay dish, and I'm just going to show you real quick this eggplant. So I've got beautiful whole eggplant that I'm just going to put directly on the burner on the stove. The whole thing, no oil, no anything, just turn my burner on and put it directly in the flames, like so. And then I'm going to walk away. So that's the part of the eggplant dish that you have to worry about right now. We want this to get extra charred, really dark on the outside. So we're going to let this go in high heat. The flame is up, coming up around the eggplant. I want that outside skin to be charred black, like just almost to a point where you think it's too burnt. That's going to give you some really great flavor. All right, now we're going to pause the eggplant and come back to the squash. Tucker grows us the most beautiful produce. And right now we're getting zucchini, yellow squash, patty pan squash, just some really, really great vegetables. And the dish that I would like to show you today is a dish that it's in our cookbook, seasoned cookbook, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. But this is a dish that my mom made for me when I was a kid. And I love it so much in the summer that Justin and I decided to chef it up a little bit and make our own version of this dish to go in the cookbook. So what I have is some soft butter in a bowl. It's been letting it get about room temperature, so it's stirrable right here. And in that bowl, I've got, with the butter, I've got some chopped garlic, some lemon zest, salt and pepper, of course. And then I've got some minced preserved lemon. Now, I'd love to tell you all a little bit about preserved lemon. So preserved lemons are something we do in the winter when we have an abundance of Meyer lemons. And what we do is we preserve them in salt. So you take them, and here's a whole one I can show you. So this is a whole lemon that's been preserved. You can see we've scored it in quarters, but not all the way through, like 85% cut, nearly all the way through. We score it, and then we pack it in salt. We put it in a cryovac food saver and store it that way, but at my house when I make it, I put it in jars because it's really pretty. I leave it on my counter and I put it in jars, and it's something that's really pretty to see in my kitchen. But you pack it in salt, and over the course of time, usually takes about a month, but the longer it goes, the better it tastes. And what it does is it preserves the lemon. So what the part that you end up using is actually the peel, the skin of the lemon. So see, I pulled off a piece of that lemon. Really what you pull out is the meat. The part that you would typically use is the part that we're not going to use in a preserved lemon. And what you use is the peel, the skin. You scrape off that pith, any of that white part, and then you chop up that peel. And it's this beautiful kind of salty, flavorful, all the bitterness that would typically be in lemon rind is now gone. So I've got that in my butter. And then some fresh oregano. I'm just going to give that a rough chop here.
That preserved lemon as well, Tracy, that can be used in a multitude of different type of applications. I mean,
yeah, I would say that preserved lemon is one of those ingredients. I mean, like I said, I keep it on the counter in my kitchen right next to the salt. And yes, it's because it's pretty, but it's also because I use it that much. I use it almost as much as I use my salt. It's a great, great seasoning. You can add it, make salad dressings out of it, use it in, chopped up just fresh in salads. One of my favorite salads coming up here in the fall is arugula with fresh persimmons, lemon juice, lemon oil, and julienne preserved lemon. Really simple, but it's really just a super potent flavored ingredient that can add a lot of great punch and flavor to a dish by not having to do too much. So I'll just take a quick second here and turn my eggplant. So, all right, so I just want to reiterate, in my bowl, I've got my soft butter, my oregano, garlic, lemon zest, preserved lemon mince. Now, I've cut my zucchini in half lengthwise. And what I've done here, I've put it on a cookie sheet, but I've put them really close together on purpose. Essentially, each piece is going to help hold each other piece up. And that's what we want. We want them to stay straight up. I've got this great bread that Buttercup made, and I'm going to toss that in some oil. It's a good amount of oil. I want this bread to be nearly saturated. And then I'm going to season that bread with salt and pepper as well. And just for ease, because I have them here, I find it's easy to do this with gloves. And these days, most everybody's got gloves at their house. So I like to put the gloves on. And then I'm going to dot my squash with this delicious butter. Now I've seasoned my breadcrumb or my bread cubes, and I've seasoned my butter, so I don't need to season the squash here. So I've got my soft butter that I'm just gonna dot it all over the squash. Be generous. This is not one of those dishes you want to be skimpy on because there's so much flavor in this butter. And what's going to happen here is it's going to melt and roast with the squash and just develop this really great flavor. And after we put the bread on top, it's also going to soak some of that flavor into the bread. So if you happen to have any left over, it holds pretty well. You can freeze. Usually there's not too much left over. But if you happen to have any, you can leave it in your fridge for a few days, or it freezes pretty well. But you can see I've been generous with this butter.
Oh, we had a good question since you're talking about leftovers. Someone asked, is there anything you could do with on the barbecue with the preserved lemon? And I was thinking this, you could always put, this is a nice thing to use like with fish. It's kind of a secret ingredient, especially if you wrapped it in tinfoil, maybe on the barbecue. Any other kind of helpful hints in that kind of regard?
Pedro, that's exactly what I would have said. I would do exactly like fish and parchment, with some preserved lemon in there. Preserved lemon, it's good to cook with. It's definitely, I tend to use it more as a finishing flavor. That sounds delicious with the fish. So I've got my butter on the squash, and now I've got my crumbled feta cheese. And when I crumbled this cheese, I didn't crumble it in a uniform way. I've got some pieces that are really crumbly, some pieces that are bigger chunks. And again, there's a method to this madness, and it's because as this roasts, that feta cheese gets kind of brown and crunchy. So you get different texture from that. From the pieces that are bigger, you'll still have a little bit of soft texture in the center. The pieces that are smaller will get this nice, like crispy brown. So it just adds some really great texture to the dish. But as you can see, as I'm building this, you can see why I put the squash so close together, because I'm building this all up. And if I tried to do this individually, all these squash would be falling over and losing all this wonderful topping on top. Right?
You know that,
so
Tracy.
I've got my butter, my feta cheese, and now I've got my bread chunks. And the same thing, I'm just going to take these bread pieces and just kind of dot them all over.
So Tracy, I've known you for a long time. Randy has as well. We've been very lucky to have some of your amazing food. And, you know, I know right now you're taking small little ingredients that are just surefire layups for Chardonnay. Can you tell us a little bit about building this towards pairing with Chardonnay and a little bit of
definitely.
the structure?
I mean, you know, it's squash itself. So I'm gonna my assistant here, Justin, is gonna throw this in the oven at 425. Thank you, Justin. Yeah, I mean, this dish pairs so well with Chardonnay. Randy, you like that, right?
Oh, love it.
So I mean, the parts of this dish that go well with Chardonnay, especially this Chardonnay, you think about summer squash, it's got a richness to it. It's not buttery, but it's got definitely some texture to it, some richness. We're gonna roast it, so it's gonna have some really great flavor development that way. But I think the lemon is really the part, and hopefully Randy would agree with me here. I've got lemon and lemon zest. I've got lemon and preserved lemon. So I've got lemon in different ways. It's not super obvious, but it's going to be a little bit of an undertone that I think is going to really highlight some of the acidity in this wine. But then what's going to happen is that squash, I almost think of the squash as like the vessel. It tastes good. It's delicious, right? But it's kind of the vessel for the other parts, that butter, that oregano, that bread. So I think all those parts with this vessel that's kind of neutral but has this really great, a little bit of decadent texture on the palate creates that same balance with the wine. Randy?
It sounds great. I'm sold with the lemon tones and the butter. I mean, what goes better with butter than Chardonnay? And there's lemon aromatics,
right? Butter and
lemon
lemon
flavors
is Chardonnay, right?
in the Chardonnay. You know, it should be a home run. We're
Oh
counting
gosh.
on.
Woo, okay, I'm nervous.
No
Before
pressure.
I jump away here and let Justin get going on the deck, I just want to show y'all. Not
Where's your
talking about Justin, y'all. This eggplant. I'm gonna hold this up. You can see this eggplant. It's burnt. It is burnt, and that's exactly what I want. I want it to be charred. Because what we're gonna do later is we're gonna puree this. So it's burnt on the outside, but soft in the center. It's when I put these pair of tongs through it, you can see it goes right through. So you want that to be soft and cooked in the center, and it's going to be this awesome contrast of this, you know, this richness from that creaminess of the eggplant on the inside, and then it's going to get this nice smokiness from the outside that we've charred. So I'm just going to set this aside. I've got my onions that are charred on those flames, the same as the eggplant, and then Justin's going to jump in here and talk about duck. Thanks, guys. Hope you enjoy that Chardonnay. Cheers.
And while Justin's jumping in there, cheers. Well, Justin's jumping in, just so people want to follow along. We do have, if you look in the chat, there are links to the recipes that are being featured right now, as well as there is a link to the cookbook that the recipes come from through the Sonoma County Vintners, and it's a generous discount, 40% off. This has been a labor of love of all the people that are on this call right now, and one of our master sommeliers worked for literally almost 2 years working with Tucker directly in the garden with our winemakers to get the ultimate pairings. And now that we're showing the duck with local farmers, with producers of different proteins to pull this thing together. So it's a great opportunity as well to be able to pick up this book at a significant discount. Randy, you were about to say something, excuse me.
Oh, no, I was just tickled pink with the Chardonnay and the concept. I just wish I had that in front of me to taste. I'm salivating, almost drooling. But we're gonna roll into the next wine here in a minute, right? With that, I see a little duck breast there, Justin. So that wine that Justin is showcasing, that is our Pinot Noir from the Petaluma Gap. The Petaluma Gap is a new area, actually, one of the newest appellations in Sonoma County, obviously down near Petaluma. But the reason it's called the Gap is because you get this great wind coming in off the ocean through Petaluma. The Petaluma Gap kind of pops out the other side there towards San Pablo Bay. And when you have an area like that, it's cool climate, very similar to the Russian River is a very cool climate area, which is fantastic for Chardonnays and Pinots. Petaluma Gap is very nice. It's very cool also for Chardonnays and even more so Pinot Noirs. The reason the coolness is important and how we get that coolness, we get it from the fog that tends to come in more often than not every day in the afternoon. In fact, if you live in this area here, it's been quite cool and quite foggy in the mornings. And that adds or gives you this longer extended growing season. And the longer it takes to get a grape ripe, the better the flavors, the natural acids, and specifically with a Pinot Noir being a red wine from a red grape, you want to get the seeds and the skins mature. So what we do this time of the year is we're out looking at the sugar levels, we call it the bricks, and we're tasting the grapes, and we wait to get the nice flavors. Then we start chewing on the seeds, and we want the seeds to become sort of that dark brown, almost crunchy, very morphologically ripe. And on top of that, you want to chew on the skins a little bit because you get the color, the red color, the purple color in the wine from the skins, but you want the skins to be ripe and soft and not really sweet sugar, but just, you know, nice sweet skins, not sour and astringent. Once you have all of that in the grape, then you say, pick them, Dano, and you bring them into the winery and you get your fermentations going. Punch downs we like to do, which is where you're pushing the cap down, because when a red wine is fermenting, it's fermenting with the skins in a tank, and the skins go to the top, the juice or wine to the bottom, and you kind of got to mix that up, but gently because it's Pinot. And then ultimately it'll convert the sugars, the yeast will eat all the sugars and convert it to wine, alcohol and wine, and then we drain off the wine and age it gracefully in wonderful French oak barrels. And this wine, as you look at it, it's got tremendous color, but what you're going to really find when you smell this is there's a little bit of toastiness, and I think that toastiness is going to kind of marry well with the crispy eggplant, I'm sure, on the outside, with the char and the smokiness you get from that. And then there's just a cornucopia of dark, ripe fruit. And there's some blackberries, I think, coming in this dish, and you'll find blackberries in this wine. And you know, the sign of a great wine is it's got to look good, and then it's got to smell good, and it's got to taste good, and then it has to, again, finish nice and long and lingering. And you don't want, in any red wine, you don't want too many rough tannins. You want a silky essence in the palate. And this is
very well said, Randy. Oh,
and velvet all the way.
Hey, Randy, I'm gonna sneak in here. I gotta get this duck in the pan, but we got some beautiful local duck from Liberty Farms. They're in Petaluma. Jim Riker, his daughter Jennifer, they're fourth generation duck farming family. They have this amazing duck, and this year it's actually available to the public. You can buy it on their website. Normally, it just went to the best restaurants around the country. A great product, great people. And it's super easy to cook. I think duck gets a bad rap because a lot of people have had it and, it was tough, or it was overcooked, or, it had some shot left in it. They got it from a hunter, and, it's definitely a different flavor. This is farm raised, organic duck, beautiful product from Liberty. And I'm gonna show you how to cook it, because I think most people think it's hard to cook, but it's super easy. So they sell it like this, or a lot of times we buy the whole duck. But these are just the breasts, 4 to a pack, 2 breasts, 4 sides. I'm just gonna dry it off a little bit. And then I'm just gonna cut them in half. I'll save one of these for later. And what I'm gonna do is I wanna score the skin. And that's gonna give it a cool pattern for later on. After you cook it, it's got little squares or little triangles in it. But it's also gonna allow some of the fat to render out. Because you can see, I mean, it's got a pretty good amount of fat, but the nice thing about the fat, it keeps it moist when it's cooking. So I'm just gonna take the knife and I'm gonna use the weight of the knife. I'm not gonna push down, I'm just gonna pull it across. And I'm gonna go this direction. And the main thing you want is you don't wanna go through the skin and into the meat, because then it'll kind of dry out as it cooks. So I'm just kind of come back the other direction, and that's scoring the duck right there. On the other side, we just want to take off a little bit of the sinew, and a little piece off that tender there, and just clean it up like you would a steak or any other kind of meat. There's not really much loss on it. The only thing you lose is as the fat renders out, some of the weight and fat you lose. But the nice thing about that is you have some duck fat and you can cook some other things in it. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of salt, and then I'm gonna put it in a cast iron pan. And it's not like a crazy hot pan, it's just warm. So I'm not starting it in a high heat saute pan. I'm gonna add just a touch of olive oil in there just to get it going. And I'm gonna set it in there. And that's gonna cook for about 10 minutes. 10 minutes on this side, 10, 12 minutes, and then we're gonna flip it over 2 minutes on the other side. So while that is happening, we are gonna make the rest of the dish. But I wanted to show you something Tucker brought me in. He brought me this beautiful basket of produce. Let me show you this here. And we're so fortunate because we get this like every day, basically. So brought me in some beautiful sweet, these were the sweet cherry tomatoes, the yellow ones. We got some eggplant here. This looks like mixed mustard greens and top soy, maybe some bok choy leaves in there. Cilantro, some more eggplant. What else we got today? Fresh dill and cilantro and fennel. And these are one of my favorites this time of year. These patty pan squash, we just kind of cut those and give those a sear. Persian cucumbers, and these are the Nantes carrots. This is one of Tucker's favorite carrot. It's unbelievable how good this stuff tastes. And you know, that goes to Tucker's skill and the soil. You know, we have really good soil, and it makes these veggies taste great. And the cool thing right now is we actually sell these boxes. It's called the farm box, and every Thursday we sell these. People come pick them up at KJ, and it's super fun, you know, to cook out of these. And just go home and open it up and see what happens. So
Like Christmas every week.
Yeah, exactly. I got the duck cooking over there. So we're gonna pickle some blackberries, and I like to do this. You know, when you go to the store and you buy some blackberries, you know, they look beautiful on the top, and then you get down to the bottom, and they're a little squished up or beat up, and they're not gonna last that long. A lot of times at my house when I go to the store, I'll take those ones at the bottom that aren't that nice, and I'll just go ahead and pickle them so that they don't go bad. Or I'll freeze them. A lot of times I'll freeze them and throw them in a smoothie for the kids. But pickling is a really nice addition to the salad, and it really extends the shelf life of the blackberry. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring to boil a little pickling liquid here. We got white balsamic vinegar. We got some verjus. Verjus is sour grape juice. This is the white verjus we're using here, and Randy makes that for us, and that's because they do what's called green dropping in fine winemaking. So when they're going through and they're looking at their clusters, probably like mid-July, beginning of July,
And into August.
August, okay.
Yeah. Late July into August.
Okay, so late July and August, they're going through, they're looking at their clusters. If they're seeing clusters that aren't perfect, they'll cut them, pick them, and then Randy will take them and make them into verjus for us. So it's kind of like the lemonade of the grape world. It's a great replacement for vinegar or using along with vinegar. It's just a less harsh acid. So it's like got a fresh grape flavor to it. So we're gonna put a little bit of sugar in here, a little bit of salt. And then this is the secret ingredient, some fish sauce. I know it sounds weird. There's not a lot in the recipe, but it's going to give it a really big flavor in a really short amount of time. It's kind of that umami kick to it. So I'm just going to bring that to a boil. And then once that boils, we're going to pour that over the blackberries. and just let them cool. And then once they're cool, you can put them in your fridge and keep them in the last, week, maybe 2 weeks. But they're so good, they probably won't last that long because you'll want to put them in all kinds of stuff for a really nice pop of flavor. Tracy wants to hop in here because she's going to check on her onion. I hid it underneath my desk over here. You want to hop in? She has the onions cooking there.
Okay. So, my onion moved. So, same thing here. I want these onions to get cooked where they've got some char on the edges. That's going to go in with the eggplant. So, same idea here, right? I want that sweetness developed. So, I've got sweetness that's happening from the onion, but then a little bit of char. So, we've got a couple different layers of flavor. And then Justin's brine here has just come up to a boil. So, I'm going to simply pour that over the blackberries. Should that covered nicely? And set them aside. You can do this recipe a day ahead of time. You can even let it sit. Like when I make these, I usually make extra and keep them in my fridge. All right, so while I'm here, I'm going to make the eggplant puree. So I've got.
Hey, one other thing, if you want to turn the rest of the show into a drinking game, anytime we say so, you have to take a sip of wine.
So.
Oh, you got.
So. Okay, twist my arm.
Go, Tracy.
All right. It's torture, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so, right, there we go. Now I'm going to touch myself every time. This is our fancy blender. This is called a Thermomix. This is a fun piece of equipment that we have in the kitchen. It's a really cool blender, but it also has a heating element. So you could be cooking as you're blending. Pretty fun.
Super cool. It's a computer too.
Yeah.
And you have this little chip, and it's a recipe book on there. So you put it on the side of the mixer, you just plug it into the side, and it's super cool because it's also a scale. So you just put your food in there, weigh it, and then you push these buttons, and it tells you what to do, and it cooks all kinds of stuff for you.
It does our job for us.
Yeah, taking over.
Right? Okay. So in my fancy blender, I have my tahini. I've got my garlic and oil that I had cooking off to the side here. I've got some reduced red wine. All this is going in the pot with my eggplant and my onions. Let me throw on a pair of gloves here so I can pull the eggplant apart. The only thing I'm going to do to the eggplant is pull the stem off. I've got my onions in here. I've got my beautiful charred eggplant in here. But I'll just have to turn that down. I'm just going to check on the depth here for Justin. You want the press? Want to find it? All right.
And that's kind of the first time you guys have moved that duck around at all, almost. You
Yeah,
haven't
I
even
just
flipped
moved
it yet.
exactly. And all I did was move it just a little bit to see, because I can see close up here that the edges are brown. And so that's the cue to just take a quick look. You don't want to be playing around to get color on food. If you're cooking something, browning something in a pan, if you're caramelizing onions, the more you move it, the less of that development of the color, which also in turn is development of flavor. Color is flavor in cooking. And so the same way we charred that eggplant, I barely touched it. Same thing with this stuff. We want it to take its time and slowly render. I could turn the heat up and have that fat be brown, but what would happen is it would be a very large, kind of a thick cap of fat, and that would really affect the texture of the end result. So what we want here is for it to take some time. We want it to take a little bit of time, and so that fat renders down nicely and just goes slowly. All right, in my blender, I've got my eggplant, my charred eggplant, my charred onions, my tahini, my garlic oil, and my reduced red wine. And I'm going to hit this with a tiny bit of salt. And I'm just going to blend it until it's nice and smooth. Justin, will you hit that for me, please?
Yeah,
Since you're right there.
Hey, Pedro, I'm going to put on mute just for a second.
We're going to mute while we blend because we don't want to impose that noise.
Pretty loud.
Not a problem. While they're muted, I'll just want to let you guys know, if you're interested, you can get this 3-pack of wine at a discount. There is a link in the chat room. And again, there is a discount for the cookbook as well. So it's a very great discount. It's about 40% off on the book. And I know it's a good discount through the Sonoma County Vintners on this tasting 3-pack of wine as well. If there are more questions, please type them into the question field. I know that we've gotten a few through the chat field also. Hopefully we've gotten everybody to figure out how to zoom Tracy into a larger format here. Before we go into the Cabernet, we are going to be working with Sonoma County Vintners. Going to pop up a little poll for you guys. Hopefully be real easy to just push a little button, and it's a couple little questions. And it's actually a live poll, so we'll be able to get a little bit of feedback as we're on air. Here it is right now. So as we spoke, there it goes. So 3 simple questions, but they're kind of fun. You know, what is your summer varietal? What's your favorite summer go-to wine? Is it Chardonnay? Are you a rosé person? Are you a Sauvignon Blanc person? Or maybe Pinot Gris? Whoa, look at that. Bam, bam. The wheels are spinning really quick there. That's pretty cool to be able to watch. And then the next question is, have you had a chance to visit us here at Kendall-Jackson at the Wine Estates and Gardens and been able to come and try one of our food experiences? Or, you know, we do a cheese and wine experience. We do a dessert and wine experience. We also do a food and wine pairing, and these are offered on the daily. And then what of these pairings are you most excited about today? And which of these recipes, what are you most excited to try and go home, or which one looks the best to you? So if you could punch in what you guys are thinking, that would be super helpful and a little fun for us. And we'll exit that. And Justin, it looks like you're done with the blender. Done with the blender. Okay, cool. Here we go. Take off the mute. We'll get it back over here to Chef Tracy. Oh, we can hear you. You're good.
Okay.
You're good.
So here we go with the show again. Let me show you all what this looks like now. Let's get a bigger spoon. I want you to see this beautiful kind of speckle. Right? You can see that it's this hopefully speckled puree now. And one of the best parts about being a chef, probably the most important part, is tasting your food. So now I'm going to taste it to make sure. Do I need to adjust the salt? Do I need to add anything else to it? It's really good. All right, Justin's jumping back in here with the best.
Tracy, I got to let you know, I'm getting texts from Robin and from some of the other employees, and we've got split houses actually that want to vote twice. We've got one going one direction, one another. So we've got fans all over the place right now.
So we got the duck here. It's just been kicking it in the pan over there. This is kind of a cool thing. This is called a chef press. It's a great way to keep your meat even and cooking flat. So we like to pop that on, and it's really good for fish. Because the tendency when you put something into a hot pan, it kind of tries to curl up. So you either have to stand there and hold it with your spatula, or you can just pop one of these chef presses on it. So we did put a little salt on the other side. We're just gonna give it a little flip. You can see a lot of that fat rendered out there. If I was doing more than one breast in this pan, I probably would have poured that fat out. But because the pan's kind of letting it go to the side, I'm not gonna worry about that. So now we're going to let it cook maybe 2-3 minutes on this side.
Hey, Justin.
Yep.
Do you think the Petaluma ducks are as happy with the fog down there as our grapes are?
I'm sorry, one more time, Randy.
The Petaluma duck, are they as happy with the fog down there as we are with our grapes?
I think they're pretty happy. It's a good spot to be a duck, I would imagine, you know? They're kind of like the happy cows, and these are like the super chill ducks. So
exactly.
It's a good place to be. So I don't know if you can see that through the glass bowl. The blackberries are cooling off. They kind of almost plumped up a little bit. And now we're gonna make a little salad to go along with this. I got a mix of cherry tomatoes from Tucker. I'm gonna show you a cool little trick. These are just 2 lid containers. Tracy taught me this trick. I thought she created it. You stick it like this. I was on a TV show and I did this trick, and then like 2 days later, someone was like, "Oh yeah, I saw that trick on Rachel Ray," and I thought I was being cool. And
I showed Rachel Ray.
I was doing like a Rachel Ray trick on TV. Thanks to Tracy. So basically, what you do, you pop them on there. You take the other lid. You take a serrated knife. And you just go like that. And it's a really easy way to cut a lot of tomatoes at once. So the bigger the lid, we'll use these big lids and just cut them nice right in half, super easy. We're gonna buttercup. We need a little glass bowl. We're gonna toss it. We got some basil and some mint and some chives, and kind of whatever herbs you like. But just give it a little toss with the cherry tomatoes. We'll pop some of those blackberries in there. You can, if you have some salad greens, some arugula or anything like that, you can pop it in here as well. Just kind of, this time of year in Sonoma County, everything's growing. The hard part to decide is what you want to use. Otherwise, you end up with everything in the bowl for dinner. That's what I do with the farm basket usually. So a little olive oil in there, some sherry vinegar, and a little bit of salt. We're just going to let that sit off to the side for a sec. While that duck continues to cook, and how's the squash? Tracy's going to show you the squash. We'll give that duck another minute. And then Buttercup's going to hop over here and show you a dessert real quick. It's going to go with Cabernet, right, Buttercup?
Yes.
Cool. I'm going to hop out for a minute. I'll be back.
Just wanted to share some of the results from the poll.
Thank you. There was a question for that. I didn't know how to bring it back up.
Was that a question? I'm sorry, Pedro, I didn't hear.
Oh, it was a question kind of exterior. It's about the results from the poll. So if everyone did some of the voting, we'll see some of it. And it looks like Sauvignon Blanc for right now is everyone's favorite summer varietal, with Rosé coming in right behind it. Sauvignon Blanc, 36% of the votes, Rosé 32%, and Randy's favorite Chardonnay with 25%. Pinot Gris trailing off the back. And it looks like we are coming ahead for the victory of 59% of our viewers coming to the Kendall-Jackson Wine Estates and Garden and having the food and wine pairing, which means we've got a little work to do to get the other 40% of you to show up pretty soon. And it looks like the baked zucchini is pulling ahead at 39% of the votes.
Oh.
So yeah, the duck breast is 34%, so they're right behind. And then Buttercup's dessert's 27%. So we're not doing so bad right now.
Robert, you haven't even been on yet. You're at 27%. Wow.
Hey, you say chalk.
Everybody's excited about dessert. Listen, her personal motto is, if one of us wins, we all win. So if one of us loses, we all lose. So really, it's a team effort today for sure. The squash is ready. Let me show you. Look how delicious that looks. So you can see the different pieces and sizes of the bread and the feta. Some of them get a little bit darker, crispier. That's what you want. There's different flavors and colors. And Justin and I were doing a cooking class the other day, and I'm going to share this all with you, but just know that by being on this Zoom, you're agreeing that you're not going to steal my idea. But I have this really great idea, because when we're in here and we're cooking, right, we're smelling all these wonderful things that we're cooking. And unfortunately, you that are watching, you get to see it, but you don't get to smell it. And so I have this idea somehow, and I'm not tech savvy, but I want to create a way where as we're cooking stuff, that somehow you all can smell it at home. So stay tuned. That should be coming sometime soon, because I think it would be so fun, because this is one of those things, especially this smells so good. It smells garlicky and lemony, and you smell all the flavors of this dish. It's so aromatic. So I'm sorry that you can't all smell it. You're just going to have to trust me here that it smells delicious. Now this dish is great. You can serve it hot. You can serve it room temperature. If there happens to be any left over tomorrow, I even go in the fridge and just cold pick it, take a bite. It's really easy. My kid loves this dish. Like I said, I've been eating this since I was a kid. My mom used to make a version of this. It's a great way to use up squash, and really just a wonderful summer dish.
And I think
27%, let's go.
One of the things that I like, when the writer for our cookbook was helping us with the cookbook, we added the breadcrumbs to the recipe, and he called it an edible kickstand to hold the squash up, which, I've never heard of an edible kickstand, but I like the way that sounds.
I love that too. It does help to facilitate the squash staying upright, because again, like I said, once it falls over, like some of that crispy goodness on the pan, once everything's down on the pan, I take a spatula and I scrape all that up, and then I just eat that in a spoonful, all the deliciousness on the pan. But you want most of that to be on the squash. So
it's a child-proof meal almost, for sure. It's child and adult proof.
Yeah, I mean, it really is one of those, and it's so easy. There was, maybe 8 ingredients in that dish, not too much going on there. So I know we're going to let Robert pop in now, and and start dessert before Justin
Will you
plates up the
pull that
duck.
duck out and just let it rest for me?
Yeah.
Hey, Justin, pop your head around for a second.
Yeah,
Say
man.
hi. Say hi, Dad. Your dad's watching. He wanted to say hello to
Hi,
you.
Dad.
My dad. Oh, not my dad. His dad.
His
Hi,
dad.
Justin's dad. But I'm just, before Robert hops in here, I'm just going to take the duck out of the pan and we're going to let it rest for a few minutes. This is really important when cooking any kind of proteins, duck, steak. You want to let it rest for a few minutes before it's sliced, before you slice it. So then it really absorbs all that moisture and the juices. If you cut it too early, you'll see from a steak, all those juices will run out and you want all that flavor.
And we had a good question. You know, I know in the past we've been able to do a little bit of a team up with Liberty Farms, so
Yeah.
people were able to get a little bit of this duck.
Yes.
Did you guys mention, was that something that's available to people again, or is that something?
Liberty Farms it's awesome because in the past they were really just selling to restaurants, and now if you go on their website or even call them, they are now shipping all across. They're shipping everywhere and they're shipping to households. So you don't have to just be a restaurant person to be able to enjoy this delicious duck. So I highly recommend checking them out, Liberty Farms Ducks. And it really is, we've had people send us ducks. We've tried other ducks and nothing ever beats this duck. It's so delicious.
Yeah, they are the gold standard.
Recommend. And after you've seen how fast we've done this, like Justin said, duck is typically one of those things that a lot of people save as a special meal, but you just saw how easy that was to cook. So you can easily get some duck shipped and make it on a Wednesday night.
Before you guys take off.
The other day, actually, he let me borrow the duck mobile because I had to go pick up a whole steer for our farm to table dinner in October. So I drove to Eureka in the duck mobile. It's like a Mercedes refrigerated van, and I picked up a cow, and we're aging that for a month now for October. And I went back to the duck headquarters the other day, and they were showing me some sausage. I haven't tried it yet, but they're making duck sausage now as well that they can ship, and it looked really good. And they said they've had a lot of good feedback. Other than the first week, they sold out too fast and got a lot of emails that people were upset they didn't get duck sausage. So it's a new thing. They do the duck sausage, they do the breast, you can do the duck fat. So check it out if you're into the duck.
I have a really important question. When you were driving the duck mobile and you honked the horn, what kind of noise did it make?
So,
Thank you.
before you take off, Justin, you touched on something really quick, or maybe no one. We're not
Yeah.
there.
I got it.
He's here.
We are still doing our farm to table series. I know that was a little bit of a question. We're doing it a little bit different, and we're COVID safe. Tell us a little bit about that while Robert brings his stuff in and preps out, because this is a really awesome thing that we're doing with Tucker as well.
So we've only done one, but I will say it was super cool. Like, like before it was cool because we had the big long table. It was really great for pictures, but this new way, if you've been to the garden, we have walnut trees that are probably, 50 yards apart from each other. It's basically you get your own private dining room underneath a walnut tree. And a lot of the guests really appreciated it. They said it was a lot easier to talk to their bubble that they were with, their family. It's just absolutely beautiful. It really lets you focus on the garden a little bit more because the tables are kind of hidden. So when you look across it, you just feel like you're dining in a garden. And the way we're doing it, in the past we were doing like 150 people all at once. And now we're doing it in seatings. So it allows us to make the food a little bit nicer, keep it a little bit hotter. So we'll have like a 5:15 seating, a 5:30, 5:45. So we fire it by table. So we pick up each table at a time. So I think the food's a little bit on a higher quality level, especially about temperature. And the next one's super fun. It's my buddy Justin from Mycopia. That's on I think it's the 12th of September. It's next Saturday, basically. But he's got some cool new mushrooms for us. It's a vegetarian one. We got a great menu for it. He's got this new mushroom called a lion's mane mushroom, and that's the first time they've cultivated it, and it's super, super cool. So we're really excited about that. So if you're around next Saturday and you want to come and eat in Tucker's beautiful garden, let us know. So you can see all those walnut trees if you can see Tucker's screen. It's absolutely gorgeous out there. You get to watch the sunset, and it's a lot of fun. So if you like beef, come see us in October. If you want to try some new stuff and focus on the veggies and some great local mushrooms from Sebastopol, come check us out next Saturday. Okay, Buttercup, you got dessert time.
All right. Sorry, I'm a little taller than these guys, so we're making a little quick adjustments here.
Yeah, but if I'm gonna miss the dish then. So
Can you see that?
Yeah,
Just wanna make sure.
yeah,
No, we can see. We can see all right. Yeah,
I'll just be working on my knees doing this, so
Yeah.
it'll be a lot easier.
It actually looks better when you stand up. There you go.
All right. So today we're going to be doing a little chocolate bendino today. It's one of my favorites. It's really simple, easy. It's very flavorful. It's basically almost like a chocolate pudding. Instead of baking it, we're just going to be basically just cooking it all right here in the induction. I highly recommend using an induction just because all the heat will just come straight up instead of on the side of your pot. So we're going to show that. First, we're going to take our
Real quick, does everybody know induction burner? It's electromagnetic heat. It's pretty cool because earlier when Tracy was cooking over here, the heat goes up and turns the hood on. The nice thing about this is the heat only goes into the pan. So you can actually touch this, or you could put some paper down or plastic. It's not going to burn it. I was at my brother-in-law's house cooking with him. He rolled out paper towels across the whole burner. He had a 4-burner, cooked the whole meal, like splattered everywhere, and then just rolled it up and put it in the compost, and the thing was clean. So it's a very effective, efficient heat. You're seeing a lot of homes these days. So.
Yeah, highly recommend it. I have the same one at my house, so yeah, really cool to use. So first, we're going to actually take our pectin, our gelatin. We're going to rehydrate it with some water. So we're going to mix those two together, because if you try to just add that to your mix, it's just going to clump up. So as you can see, we're just going to mix that so you can just rehydrate. Oops, sorry. So we'll let that sit for about 10 minutes. When you let it sit for 10 minutes, this is what you end up with. As you can see, it kind of looks gelatinous. As you can see, kind of rubbery, but that's what you end up with. And we're going to be adding that to our bendino to set up.
Is this dessert good for your skin? And
yes, a nice complexion to your skin with the chocolate. So,
And how hot is that? How hot is that burner?
This burner?
Yeah.
I don't have it on right now. I'm
Okay.
going to turn on right now. So right now I'm putting in our milk and cream into the pot.
And you need to use a special pot with those burners, right? You can't use just a lot. You can't just throw everything on there.
stainless steel or cast iron are the main ones,
Yeah.
I think. I don't think carbon steel works, but
No.
yeah, most stainless steel pot, all clad, anything like that's going to work on there just fine. And your cast iron pan will work too.
So we're going to put our milk, cream, quarter cup of the sugar in here. We're going to whisk that. While that's going, we're going to mix our 4 yolks.
Are those duck or chicken yolks?
Chicken. We're going to add our quarter cup of sugar in there with our brown rice flour. So this is actually gluten-free. So if anybody's out there gluten-free, you can have this.
And please try the Cabernet as we're going along watching this, because we'll definitely have to talk about the Cab when we're done, because the pairing here is actually really, really wonderful. And I'm sorry for interrupting, Buttercup.
Right.
All right, so we're whisking things together now.
Yes. So right here we have our yolks, our brown rice flour, our sugar in here. As soon as this comes up to a simmer, we're going to actually temper them together, and then we're going to make a custard out of this.
Buttercup, what does temper mean?
So tempering is where you take part of your hot solution, which is your milk and cream, and we're going to temper it here very slowly so your yolks don't curdle. So we're going to do it very slowly. As soon as this comes up, I'll show you how to do this.
The other nice thing about the induction burner is you can pick a temperature and set it and hold it. So you can say, I want to cook at 140 degrees. I want to cook at 160 degrees or 180 degrees. You just set it there and it'll stay right at that temperature. So I think you're going to see a lot more of it in the future. It works really good for standardized recipes. It's also nice because you just plug it in. You can move it all around your kitchen. I was stayed in some teeny houses for a quick vacation this summer, and they had 2 induction burners in it, and I was able to cook a pretty significant meal off those 2 burners. They just heat up super fast, and the nice thing was it didn't make the little house too hot.
All right. So we're ready there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna temper this. Tracy,
What's
you just
the
wanna
setting on the induction
hold it
burner
right
right
there.
now?
So we're just gonna temper a little bit.
So how hot is the induction burner? What do you got it turned down at?
What temperature? You just turned it to high, probably.
Yes. So let's see.
It's probably 220 degrees.
Notice Tracy
Yeah,
isn't
okay.
letting anything get unwhisked as that's going along there.
It's 210 degrees, so I can touch that with my hand. I don't know about my ring. I'm a little worried about that. You can hold your hand on it. It's warm, but it's not going to burn you.
As you can see, this is a team effort. You can see that's Tracy's hand whisking away.
Quick question: what's the difference between pudding and a budino? Or is budino just another term for an Italian pudding?
It's an Italian dessert. It's a chocolate pudding.
So they are one and the same then? Are they just a little, is there a texture or a significant difference?
Is there a difference between pudding and...
No, just the name that in Italian it's budino, so it's reference to pudding or just almost like a custardy like texture pudding.
Got it, thank you.
Does pudding always have eggs in it, or?
Yeah.
Pudding always has eggs. Right, so
So-
now you're... Sorry, go ahead, Pedro.
No, go ahead, please. We're all good.
So now we're whisking away. We're making our custard, and then we're gonna add that to our chocolate here.
Oh my.
What kind of chocolate do you like to use?
So I like to use a nice high quality chocolate. This is a 70%. Probably would not recommend like a Hershey. I would probably go maybe to like a Whole Foods or a nice high-end grocery store. Look for maybe like a Valrhona or a Cocoa Berry. Usually those stores have them. And again, this is a 70%. It's a little more darker, a little more richer.
Hey, Randy, you want to talk about the Cabernet real quick? Well,
I was just going to
coming
say, yeah, I was just going to say the higher that percentage, the better the chocolate, and the better it pairs well with a killer Cabernet like we're going to have here in a minute. So this Cabernet, it's mountain grown, so it has some really nice refined tannins that will go along with this with the chocolate and a higher percentage of cacao. We have some great Cabernet vineyards that overlook the Alexander Valley, which is where this cab comes from. And even though the appellation is called the Alexander Valley, all of our grapes are on the mountains, the ridges, the hillsides, and the benches. We have a saying that if your vineyard has a good view, it's going to make a killer wine. And these vineyards have great views. You can see there's wonderful colors, nice aromatics. I think there's going to be a blueberry or something floating around in here somewhere. And sometimes you'll pick up blueberries in the aromatics of those. Definitely chocolate tones, because this has a little bit of Petit Verdot and Merlot really brings out the chocolate tones for a Cabernet. But boy, oh boy, I tell you, I've learned so much in this past hour about the heavy metal lid and how to cut your little baby tomatoes perfectly. Don't be in a hurry when you're on the grill, and don't be flipping things all over the place. Let them just rest there. And then old Tracy, I've got the answer for her. Scratch and sniff. That's what we're going to get.
You know, Randy, I'd love...
Do a little scratch and sniff on our cab aromatic sometimes. If you can't get the bottle, we'll just send you the scratch and sniff.
I love how there's so many unique things that kind of layer one over one another. Justin was talking about getting these amazing vegetables from Tucker and about the soil that we use and how important the soil is. And then here we have Buttercup folding in really rich, huge cocoa amounts into the ingredients, only using kind of the top ingredients. And many of these things using very local people and small farms and unique flavors very much kind of tell the tale of what we do with our winemaking and a lot of what you're seeking out, how you even made this wine in itself. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we say, you know, on the winemaking side of the equation in the world, it all starts in the vineyard, and where the vineyard is all about terroir, and it really needs good dirt. And when we're talking about good dirt, we're not really in the business of growing a lot of grapes or corn or soybeans. We like dirt with a lot of rock, and with great drainage. And so the rock that you get, this sort of the basis of the dirt in the Mayacamas mountain chain, basically, which is what is on one side of the Alexander Valley. It's mostly volcanic, and you have this fractured brick red igneous rock, almost the color of the wine up there, and that has great drainage, and it makes it a little bit harder for the vine to grow, so it struggles a little bit. And the really cool thing about these mountain vineyards is because they are having a hard time growing, and so the yields are down, but the most important part about it all is the size of the berry. The smaller the berry, the greater the concentration of color and flavors and tannins. And so Lord knows we've got very small berries on these vineyards that have great views to make a stellar wine.
And it is a wonderful wine. And we've got one question I know we need to get back to the chefs, and it's how long can this wine age? And a wine from the Alexander Valley. And I mean, these are mountain vineyards, so the ageability on this wine, easy. You could 5 years is no problem. 10 years would be showing its stride.
No. Yeah. 10, 15, 20. This wine is, because of the structure of the wine and how the richness, the tannins, the fruit, and the acid are all quite interlinked. The structures there, where this is just a baby right now. You wait 10, I'll guarantee this to be fantastic in 25 years. I'll stake my reputation on it.
All right. With that, I'm going to turn the mic back over to Buttercup. I know he's got a few things going on. Buttercup,
all right.
What's happening? Yeah.
So right now the custard is made.
And thank you, Randy.
Mm-hmm.
Always a good way to check too. If you don't have a wooden spoon, you can always just take a regular spoon and you actually just run your finger through there, and you can see it kind of holds its shape. So that's when it's actually ready, when you see that.
You're so nappe.
We say call nappe.
Nappe.
So I'm going to pour my custard into my chocolate right now.
While you're doing that, I have to say out loud too that Tracy's idea, the smell-o-vision, the scratch-a-sniff, that got a lot of remarks in the chat. I do know that there's a wine tasting book that has scratch and sniffs in it. So maybe, you know, we can talk to the marketing people and see if this is something that we might be able to do in the future with some sort of a special deal. Who knows? We might have spurned something though. You never know.
It's patented, Pedro. It's patented.
So now we added our custard to the chocolate. We're going to add our warm coffee to it. We're just going to whisk that.
It's looking like an organic leptic delight.
We can definitely add some wine to this too.
I would say definitely
yeah, we just pour stuff in here. I think that's the way Justin bakes.
Yeah.
Please don't follow this recipe now.
Well, Buttercup's been out of town for what? How long are you gone?
3 weeks I've been out of town.
3 weeks. So it was a lot quieter in the kitchen, but also Tracy was baking. She was our step-in pastry chef.
Oh my!
And Paul actually made a pretty good Star Wars cake too.
So we had a question for if you're trying to make a lower carb budino, could you substitute a different type of a flour out, or is there something you could use in trade? Because I know that sometimes moving those around can greatly affect what's going on in the end.
The rice flour is
that the rice flour instead of?
They were trying to make something a little lower carb, is what the question was.
Probably like sorghum flour, or I mean, maybe flaxseed or maybe like a gluten-free, maybe oatmeal flour. I mean, there's different alternatives out there. But you know, you would always just have to test the recipe to make sure it's going to work as well.
Thank you.
Yep. So right now, we're going to do two variations of plates to how to plate this. If you don't have a pitcher, you can always use a cup, something easy to pour out of. You can see, I'm just going to pour that.
And whatever you set it in, one key that we found is try and set it in a flat surface in your refrigerator if you want it to be flat. Some people set it at an angle and try and make it look cool, but if you want it to be a flat surface, you know, in the kitchen we always have to look for a flat pan to set it on because not all of our pans are flat after we cook them.
So once your Budino's done, you want to put that in the fridge for at least 3 hours to let it set.
But this is a good one because you could do it, you could do this a couple days ahead, right? If you're having a dinner party.
Yeah.
Through the magic of.
We actually made one a little bit earlier so you can see it's already set. It's not going to fall out or anything. We can put it upside down if we want. It's not going to move anywhere, so it's already set. And then, you know, I just wanted something really easy. We're using our estate olive oil, a little Maldon salt just to kind of balance that sweetness. And then we're going to add a little fresh fruit on there. We're using a little bit of blueberries to tie it in with our Cabernet.
So we had a question, where was the recipe? And the recipe's in the chat above. You should have been able to get it should be on the email as well. Also in the chat is a link to the cookbook, Seasons Cookbook, which the three chefs in front of you and Tucker showing off his garden here in the bottom of the chat is showing off. They spent a couple of years putting this together. So there's a link for that. And there's also a link for all of the wines inside the chat. You can also find the phone number if you'd like to call and make reservations for the farm to table dinner coming up on the 12th. And then we will have one coming up in October as well. We're taking reservations for tables. I believe it's 4 and 6 are the party numbers, but please do give a call to find out more information. Sorry for cutting you off there, Buttercup. I just want to take advantage of any quiet times there. So back to Buttercup.
Hey, Joe, can I let you know, I know you can't see me, I'm right here, that we will, just for farm to table, we'll take reservations for 2 tops as well. So it could be, you could be 2, 3, 4, anywhere up to 6. We're not taking parties larger than 6. So, and I also wanted to, because we were talking about the cookbook and the packs of wine, that if you go on to the link for the cookbook and in the promo code, all capital, put Taste KJ and you can get 40% off. And the 3-pack of the wines we were having today, if you go to the KJ website, you can get 20% off if you go to, it's the Sonoma County Tasting Pack, and there's 20% off. Or you could even, if you want to try some other Jackson family wines, you can go to your wine store and you put in the promo code TASTE and you can get 15% off your order plus $10 shipping. So many good deals.
Thank you, Tracy, for spelling that out so well.
I just want to say thank you for watching and just kind of reiterate about it's a simple dessert, you know, easy to make, and you enjoy it for any time of the holidays.
And if you're ever at, what do you do, the Hillsburg Farmers Market? Is that on what day?
Tuesday.
Tuesday. You can check Buttercup out there. He slings some chocolates at the farmers market on Tuesday. He makes all kinds of fancy flavors and colors. What's your favorite one right now?
I would say probably chai tea milk chocolate.
What about the miso caramel?
Miso caramel with candy almonds.
So I got a good question for you guys. What KJ wine you guys all got in your refrigerator right now? What's your summer? So your porch pounder. What do you got in the fridge?
Got rosé all day, every day.
Yeah.
That's 4 of us, Randy.
I'm liking the too, but the rosé, yeah.
You know, I'm a Chardonnay guy.
Nice.
I've heard that about
We
you.
love that about you, Randy.
Something consistent. Hey, I had one last question that's been kind of hanging around, and you know, could the duck be replaced with butternut squash, or for vegetarian guests, or would its flavors kind of not work out so well with that on the dish?
Yeah, you could. I mean, it might be a little sweet on sweet. I would say if you're trying to go that vegetarian route, that you pick up some cool mushrooms, some mycopia. That's what we sub it with. You know, here at the wine center, probably, I don't know, we might get 10-20% of our guests that are vegetarian, and a lot of times for that course, we'll just sub out like a nice seared maitake mushroom or something like that. Do I have time to plate the duck up real quick?
Yeah, we'll just say once again, thank everyone for joining us. Thank Tucker for walking around and staying on with us and showing us this garden. I know Randy's really busy and in charge of a lot of grapes right now, so it's been great to have him and have his presence along. As always, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in and joining in. And for those of you that were able to buy some wine and taste along with us, we really appreciate you guys you're buying some wine and tasting with us. We've got a raised hand. Let's see. We've got the Chardonnay question. I'm not seeing a Q&A. What setting is the induction burner? Okay. Well, as you're plating that up, though, if there's Tucker, anything you want to say as we starting to log off here?
I just want to thank everyone for joining us today, and hope that you come by and visit us soon. And if you're far away, we hope you can make the trip one day. It's paradise. Right, Randy?
Amen to that. Thank you, Tucker. We welcome everybody from close to far to come and visit us and visit the Provence of California, Sonoma County. You cannot go wrong here. Great weather, great people, great food, great wines. Thank you for everything.
And you know, with that, Justin, could you hold that beautiful plate up so we can see it a little bit? We'd like to thank everybody for tuning in.
Tastes great. So I'm gonna have to grab a glass of Pinot, and y'all have a great day. We're about to eat some duck over here. So thank you for tuning in.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks for joining us.
Take care. Great.
Thank you everyone for tuning in and for joining us. And please, you know, we will be doing duck again and with our dinner series in the garden. So please look for updates. We've got mushrooms coming up this month. Next month, as Justin said, it's the beef, but every month we switch out the proteins. It's beautiful, wonderful veggies that, you know, we're really, really proud to showcase that we have from Tucker. But yeah, once again, thank you all for tuning in and for joining us. We'd like to thank working with Sonoma County Vintners, which is always an amazing experience. But cheers to everybody.
Cheers.
Yeah, exactly. Have a good one, everyone.
Have a nice evening.
Yay.
Yeah. Bye, Tucker.